This episode of the Unapologetic MidLife Podcast discusses topics including trauma, mental health challenges, and suicide within law enforcement and first responder populations. The content is provided for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to serve as mental health treatment, diagnosis, or clinical advice. The host, Mindi Lobuzzetta, that's me, is a licensed mental health counselor. However, listening to this podcast does not establish a therapeutic relationship. The perspectives shared by guests reflect their professional or personal experiences and do not represent official positions or affiliated agencies. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, help is available. Welcome to the Unapologetic MidLife Podcast. I'm your host, Mindi Lobuzzetta. And I am here today with Matt Cross of the Western New York Helpline for law enforcement and first responders.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So I feel like there's so much to cover, but we're just going to dive in and talk about what exactly this helpline is and maybe a little history on why this came to be. And your role in this helpline.
So I'm fortunate enough to be a board member with the helpline. I've been part of the team for 6 or 7 years now. It's 24/7 helpline to all first responders in West New York area. We're actually expanding out a little bit farther. So it's not just first responders, it's also for our families, which I can get into in a little bit too.
Yeah, good.
But it's just being there at a time of need to back up our people and our families, really.
Yeah. So when we talk about first responders, we're not just talking about law enforcement and officers, police officers. We're talking about fire. We're talking about EMT. I don't know, our military in this as well? I know they're going to have the VA and stuff, but... Yeah,
it's an option for anybody that has served our country, our fields. We have dispatchers. We have everybody that a lot of times you don't think of a dispatcher driving to a hot call and being that person that's giving CPR and all that other stuff. But what kind of gets left behind is the stress that's sent out by being the first person that takes that call from a family member that's struggling. Or the bigger part of that is not having the resolution to what actually happened. So you're sending, an officer into a very dangerous position. You may never know what happened, or they might get hurt. So the stress that comes with sending them accurately, giving out the right information, it gets often overlooked, and it shouldn't. And so we use a wide paintbrush to cover everybody.
Yeah. And I think of like dispatch too, you're getting that frantic person that's clearly in distress or, is in a situation that could be potentially really scary. Like I just feel like there's an auditory component of that, right? And whatever visuals then go on in your head. I mean, you're not maybe visually seeing it go down, but you're hearing it for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And you couple that with, forced overtime where they're working 16-hour shifts and you're not getting breaks and there's not enough staff. And again, I mean, if you work in some of our districts in Buffalo, you have calls coming in from the time you enter till the time you leave. So you're not getting the downtime, which is, I'm sure something we'll kind of cover in a little bit here too. But it's just cumulative trauma, cumulative stress, just for people, driving to the call.
Yeah. And I like that we're talking about this because I don't think people always think of dispatchers or it's all the personnel involved in what this process looks like. And I also think of too, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need first responders, but we don't live in a perfect world. So the need is there too. There's people calling in who are dealing with some sort of crisis or scary situation. Like you're saying it's continuous sometimes for dispatchers.
Yeah, absolutely. We work 10-hour shifts. If they work 8 or 12s or 16s, I mean, depending on where you're assigned, it's nonstop. And it's always going to be somebody that could be at the worst point of their life calling. And
right.
we forget about that,
Yeah. And when those calls come in, right, do they dispatch for EMT or ambulance and stuff too, the dispatchers? Okay.
Yeah, so they cover everything. And that's another great point is our EMTs, who we also cover, get forgotten. But how many people you think in their careers they're actually pronouncing deceased or have to talk to these families or unfortunately sometimes make things look a little bit more hopeful than they actually know they are, just to keep a sane, straight face. It's a tough job.
Yeah, I have some stats here that I've brought up, and I'll get into the other officer stats. But first responders, as a broader category, also experience frequent exposure to trauma. Up to 80% more report experiencing traumatic events on the job due to the nature of the emergency work. And firefighters, paramedics, and other emergency staff often encounter repeated critical incidents that include serious injury, death, or life-threatening situations. Yeah, you're not calling an EMT because you got a broken pinky toe. Like, something horrible has happened.
Yeah, they're coming to the bad stuff, the hard stuff, and that 80%. So you're talking, the general statistic that goes around in our trainings is a normal person, a normal citizen, civilian is going to see 2 traumatic events in their life.
Yep, I have that.
And you're talking hundreds to thousands, depending on length of your career, the volume of calls,
The shift,
the
what shift you're
shift.
working.
I mean, it's amplified, much further than that. So but it's just part of what we do, which is unfortunately something we have to work on getting through. And a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, I have on here. There was various, like, obviously depending on the research and obviously depending on maybe the city, depending on what area you cover. I mean, sometimes I remember hearing sometimes the more rural stuff is almost worse too, because maybe something's been going on a really long time and nobody knows, right? In the city, there's neighbors, there are different kinds of stuff. It's not that I want to say one's worse than the other, but we think that, okay, maybe there's less population in a more rural area. Doesn't mean there's anything less severe going on there, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I've worked in 4 other rural agencies part-time as a police officer before I came over to Buffalo. And what I could tell you, some of the stuff you're dealing with there is you're working by yourself.
Yep.
Or you have a lower amount of support staff to come to your rescue if you do get in trouble. A lot of these rural places, if you think of the country, and they're out in the middle of the woods and they shoot all the time. They're very accurate shots with long rifles. So there's a lot of things to consider. And you're showing up blind to a lot of these calls. So it's definitely dangerous.
Yeah. I don't think there's like an easy role when it comes to this stuff. And I don't think the general population thinks in terms of these kind of things. Like you working for different agencies or in different areas, you're seeing a lot of different aspects of this.
Yeah, I'm actually very blessed to have had that experience prior to coming over here. That kind of coupled with I was in a jail for a long time working, and just the people exposure and dealing with people in different situations. But it gives me a better respect for those rural communities and for the jail situation and the stuff that they go through. So it's been nice to have that experience, that's it's pretty rounded. So
yeah, you bring a lot of experience to this role. Let's talk a little bit about how this came to be, because I think that's important to people kind of wondering, well, this wasn't something that was around 20 years ago. Officers needing mental health, first responders, and veterans, that kind of was top tier. PTSD, that's where a lot of PTSD kind of started, with veterans coming home from war. So let's kind of talk about how this came to be.
Yeah, of course. So the old way of dealing with things is, of course, bad call. Go back to the station house after your shift, have a few beers, go out, drink till you go to sleep, try to forget it. Nobody talks about it. You just suck it up and move on. There was a lot of times where there were indeed suicides revolving around law enforcement. And a lot of times, they would get termed other things. So statistically, it might not have seemed that these things were happening, but eventually it came to a point where we had to find a better way to deal with this kind of stuff. And there is. And it's, I guess, maybe a little softer approach, but it's talking about things. And I'm sure we'll get into some of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just hit a point where you can only take so much. And we were seeing, people were taking their lives, or they were, having heart attacks. The average life expectancy for a police officer, I think, is like 59 to 62 right now, somewhere
Which
in there.
Which is a lot lower than the average life expectancy.
Yeah, I heard that last week, and I was kind of, that's not good.
It's a punch to the gut a little bit, right?
Yeah. I'm not right there, but I'm not super far off. If that's the case, I'm more than halfway done. So
Yeah, which
it's
we don't hope,
no,
but but that's the people who are listening to this or who haven't listened to this before. I do trauma work, so I'm a trauma therapist, and I believe that the body keeps the score. Very famous book. And when you're experiencing 1,000 plus high stress traumatic incidents in a career, that's going to do something to your body.
yes,
And it's not going to be pretty.
never. Also, what comes with that is you're so used to going, trauma, 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 and then you just retire and everything stops.
Yep.
And you just sit around. You're losing your identity, of course, and that's perception. But more than that, your body's so used to moving and being on high alert all the time that it's not just ready to just shut it off. So that's where a lot of these health problems come in, or we do lose people to heart attacks, or it's that exposure catches up. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah. No, I do some work around when people are retiring. I have worked with officers who have retired, and it's always planning around like, what is this going to look like? Because retiring and just sitting on the couch in front of Netflix is not good for anybody.
No.
But somebody who has functioned in this realm, I do talk a lot about like purpose and passion and meaning making. Like, how do we do something good with maybe this experience that you've had and pay it forward somehow? Do you guys have volunteers that come and work with the helpline? Like, how does this all work?
Yes, it's all volunteer actually. So
Okay.
nobody's paid. It's all just because we want to help our
Yep.
fellow people. So like I said, we have peers. So we have first responder peers and we have family peers. So
Okay.
we cover two ends of the spectrum there, with making sure that when you call in and you're in distress, depending on your specific situation, you're linked up with the best type of person that can connect with you. So if we have a mother calling in because her son is a law enforcement officer and she hasn't heard from him in 2 weeks and he's drinking a lot and things are going crazy, we want to get you linked up with another mother or somebody in that area that has that experience that could say, you're not crazy.
Right.
I've been through this and this was my approach.
And you're doing the right thing, because I think sometimes families can get backlash for this.
For sure. And also,
Yeah.
I mean, you potentially could get a different response if a cop answered that line, right? So you might say, oh, I kind of get it. We keep things close to the vest. We don't necessarily like to talk, but that's not maybe what that mom needs to hear right now. She may need to hear that perspective from somebody that's been in her shoes. So
Absolutely.
it's nice to have both sides of the fence covered with our volunteers. Train annually, biannually. We have a lot of other major events that we try to get together and just be out in the community doing stuff. So it's really expanded. It's making a good name, making a lot of nice connections, and just trying to get the word out there.
Yeah, and I think it's changing the face of how we view mental health in this field. Because I mean, I grew up, I didn't have officers in my family, but I definitely had friends who had officers in their family. And it was just like, you didn't talk about things. You didn't address things. Somewhere I knew I have the stats of the high incidence of either it's like drug or alcohol use. It doesn't specify which one, but drinking, suppressing. There's other unhealthy, like maladaptive ways that people learn to cope with this stuff. And this is taking this to a new level where let's find a healthy way to handle this and actually help these people.
Another thing that kind of comes with that is having people that are volunteers that have been in that place. I mean, I'm still in that place sometimes. So we're constantly work in progress, but we've all hit that wall at some point that we needed help and we were able to ask for it and we were able to climb out. And I guess having that experience, it's just an easier place to come from when you're trying to help somebody, as opposed to just taking, a freshman college student that wants to be in, law, to say, hey, I try this organization, applaud your effort. And eventually someday love to have you on board, but we need that life experience.
Yeah. So your volunteers are people with experience, some sort of law enforcement connection. I almost think of like, how like AA wants you to go find a sponsor. I don't want to call it a sponsor, but definitely like I don't know. What is the term you guys would use? Is there a term for this yet?
I don't know if there's a specific term, but I mean, I know where you're headed. Unfortunately, the sponsors have been through the program. So we want people that have had the stress,
Mm-hmm.
have been able to be successful in either rehabilitating themselves or at minimum being able to reach out for that help when they needed it, or
Yeah.
somebody reached them and they can speak to their experience is the bigger portion of that.
Yep. Yeah, that's huge. What about spouses, right? So this is something spouses watching you guys go in or you gals go into these crazy situations. So there's support for them as well.
Yeah, 100%. And we actually have a lot of spouses that are volunteers
Okay.
also. And again, for that reason of being able to answer from that perspective. When I talk to a lot of my guys and girls around here in my department, we forget about the stress that's put on them when you take this job or you take a
Yeah.
first responder role. And a lot of that is we don't want to come home, especially if they're not in the field, and share our stressors with them or share our stories or what happened at work today because it was so bad. You think it would affect them. But actually, what happens a lot of times is you not sharing or you closing down is stressing them out even more because they just want to know that you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the advisement there is share what you think is okay. You don't have to share every gory detail,
Mm-hmm.
but involve them in your life because
Mm-hmm.
it's a big part. We say our law enforcement or our first responders, it's a family.
Mm-hmm.
It's true because we
Yeah.
spend a large majority of time with them. But sometimes we forget about, first of all, how it's going to change us as a person. It
Mm-hmm.
does. It's just
It
a fact.
does.
And
Yep.
I'm not the same person I was when I don't even think I had used curse words back when I first
Let it out. And if you need to let it out here, let it out.
Yeah, but it's it becomes kind of a second language, unfortunately, but your family
There's worse
may not
things.
understand that, Yeah,
Yeah.
you're at a birthday
Yeah.
party
I
and
think of it as an expression, right? I would rather somebody curse and get something out than hold it in and it manifests in some other, again, maladaptive, unhealthy way. So,
yeah,
if that's what you need in that moment, I mean, again, there are way worse things, you
for
know?
sure. Yeah, it's just the change can be subtle to your family, and
Hmm.
if you're not communicating with them, yeah, I remember vividly. I was at a birthday party for one of my nephews or something when I was still in the jail, but the kid came over and he put his hand in the cake and I barked at him like I was in jail and my whole family just stopped and looked at me and I'm like, I don't know I don't know what that was. I don't know
Yeah.
who that was,
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of people that have similar stories to that because you're always on the defensive and you're always trying to stay safe and stuff like that. But just going back to that's where we got to include the family so let them know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, because doing trauma work is, I'm going to swear, it's fucking wild, man. Like it is. Your brain literally changes from repeated traumatic exposures. And I have had military personnel who go away and see crazy stuff, right? Crazy ass shit, come back and really struggle dealing with it here and seeing similar dynamics here. They prepare you for, right? I'm not saying they don't prepare you for here, but it's different when you're going home and then sleeping in the same community that you were just, whose life was just threatened in. Right? It's a little bit different when you can separate place from the traumatic experience. But that's not happening in this case.
No.
And we're expecting people to function normal, I put on quotes with that,
Yeah.
in a repeated traumatic exposure.
Yeah, we have a long way to go, and especially with our veterans and the transition to coming back to a civilian life or a law enforcement life. There's similar things, but it's not exactly the same, of course.
Of course not. But you guys are repeatedly going back to, I mean, how many houses have you been, or apartments or whatever neighborhoods have you been repeatedly back to over and over, right? Just because some are just,
Yep.
there's dynamics going on, right? And you're constantly going back.
Yeah, and you just get that call and you see it and you just sigh because you know what you're going back to and you know what the situation is and it's probably going to be the same players and it's not in your mind, it's a correctable situation. A normal person would just stop that behavior. That's just not the case in our field. Most people, that we deal with in those situations don't care about what you're telling them.
Have any plans to change, do something different,
No,
make better choices?
It's tough. And I love the public. There's a million supporters that are just so good to us. We are still up against a big wall for that. And it's just, we really need to take care of our people.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't about just you guys as officers, but your job is protecting the greater good of our city, right? And I'm not saying that there's not places for improvement. I think every field has place for improvement. But that's what this helpline is we're trying to improve the mental health of our first responders, which and then hopefully in return helps them better perform at their job. Right? A stressed out person is going to struggle to make logic. They've done studies. There was I don't know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, obviously. I'm doing this. But there was a woman who she works with like special op military, and they kind of talk about attention span and how well they operate under pressure. I'm totally butchering this. I don't have the scientific data that she had when she talked about it, but the more a person was kind of ruminating and that preparation before they just kind of went off, their ability to handle that stress lessened, which is kind of interesting when you guys are working a 24-hour shift and then are back at it in 8 hours, right? You haven't had a lot of time away from it to then, it's the structure, it's the nature of the job too. So how do we better support you guys so when you go back out there?
One of the things that's great about the helpline is if you are in distress and you call that number in the middle of the night, and you may have been a part of this at some point, they'll talk as long as you want to talk, and as much help as we can get you on that phone call, and hopefully it's beneficial to you. If at the end of that phone call you still need some help and it's just not clicking, or you just need to be whatever it is, we use a vetted list of providers through the helpline, and vetted by meaning we make sure they want to work with our population in our field. They're not, just there to collect a paycheck. But we want to get you linked up with somebody that will continue on this service. And the big portion of that is we just said to continue the help. So that's one way to continue the help is by making the effort to see somebody. If the first one you see doesn't work out and you don't click, go to the next one. It's no hard feelings, but keep trying until you find somebody that it works with. And that's where the progress is made. And that's where you start to deal with the stuff. And, after this is my 18th year, I guess, in law enforcement. And I was not practicing what I was preaching for a very long time. I kind of actually did make that call last year and started working through some stuff that I didn't even know I had to deal with. And we started off from
basics.
Day one as a baby and all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of layers to that onion.
Is.
So it's amazing. I will never not say that somebody should go do that, even if you're not in this field. It's so beneficial for you to get that stuff off your chest to somebody that has some experience. So that's definitely one way to get the ball rolling with taking care of ours.
Absolutely. And I will say this, and I know I used to go in and do the Buffalo Police Explorer, having conversations with young folks thinking about going into the field, right?
Yeah.
Get your shit under control, meaning go to a therapist. I was strongly encouraged when I went into this field, go to therapy. Go experience this. Make sure you have your own shit under control. This field comes with vicarious trauma as well, right? You're also firsthand experiencing it sometimes, but I am definitely a vicarious trauma. Like I'm getting people's stuff all the time. So I have to make sure that I'm managing my own stuff so that it doesn't ripple into this. And I think of it in this field as well, right? You have to manage your stuff. And sometimes that first therapist might not be a good fit, but we can't label the whole crew that you have identified as not a good fit. It's personal. Therapy is personal. I tell people if they come to me, if I'm not a good fit for you, that's okay. Do not take it personal. This is about you and what you need. And a good therapist is going to be okay with that.
On the flip side of that, a good therapist will also tell you, this is not my specialty. There's somebody else that would be a better fit for you.
Yes.
And that's great too. I mean, and it's, again, somebody that's professional will explain to you, this is not me wanting to let you go. This will be beneficial to you to speak with this person that can speak to what you're going through. I don't want to sit with somebody that doesn't understand what I'm trying to relay to them. And I'm sure that they don't want to waste their time, try to be somebody that they're not either. Just got to keep
Yeah.
pushing on.
I think of it as, going and getting a bad haircut. Maybe you don't go back to that person, but you're not going to not get your haircut again. You gotta dive back in and try. Obviously, therapy is a little more intense, but it's
And it's difficult because the hardest thing you can do is to really just admit that you need that help, right? So that's the biggest hurdle is making that first appointment. And then if you do have a bad experience, I can see why it's definitely a little bit of a setback. But once you find that connection, there's really no going back. I mean,
yeah,
in my opinion, it's just,
I
I've
agree.
seen so many good results come from it that when you find that person, you find yourself wanting to go to the next appointment. And
Yeah.
it's so, sometimes you can, you'll have people crying one day or laughing the next day or complaining about your job or complaining about home. You're listening to the therapist because you want to hear them talk. It's just, it's extremely, I don't know. I've seen it work very quickly.
Yeah, I think this comes down to like connection. We as people need to connect. And I think, the nature of your job, the history of not talking about it, right? Like has kind of reinforced almost this not connecting mentality a little bit, right? So this is a little bit about connecting. And I think it's learning to deactivate that fear response, that flight or fight response that you guys kind of operate in for work. And whether it's coping skills on how to ground and soothe or activate that vagus nerve, which is like a biological process of helping to bring us down.
Yeah.
And whether you're doing EMDR processing and processing your shit. I did it myself. I trained for it and I was like, oh, damn, like I need to go do this myself. So, and I admit that to people. I have no problem with that. And I think that's huge. Like you admitting like, okay, I did this myself. I had to practice what I was preaching. You're setting a stage essentially.
Yeah. And again, I am nowhere near perfect. I'm not
Nobody
where I
is.
need to be. We're still, it's going to be years of work to even get to feeling really good about it. But,
Okay.
how is it fair for me to refer people or tell them this is what they need if I'm not at least trying when I can? And I think that that's kind of going back to our peers with the helpline, having that experience in their lives where something traumatic has happened or they've been called a call or they've been doing all the stuff that we're dealing with people that are having trouble with. That just speaks volumes to this is the way out. This is the way to get back to who you are.
Or who you're going to be through all of this, because I know you had mentioned I'm not who I was going into all this. Well, to be fair, nobody's who they were 10 years ago,
Right.
or hopefully not. Hopefully you've grown and evolved in some capacity. But if this can support that evolution and then somehow incorporate the healing into what you've experienced, then it's worth it. It's hard to face your stuff. Sometimes I'll go to do EMDR processing with people and they're like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And, I give them a minute just to kind of check in and they're like, but I need to do it. Right. And it's that acceptance of like, okay, I know I need to do this, even though this is really uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people get really emotional during that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of us, we just stuff that stuff inside for so long.
Yeah.
So when that starts to come out, that's all natural stuff. It's supposed to be coming out. And
Yeah.
it's taken up to that moment for it to happen. So it's really a breakthrough, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Crying. I mean, I know you're a guy, but you guys cry too. You're supposed to let it out. And if you take your tears and put it under a microscope based on why you're crying, it's structured differently.
Wow.
Which is kind of wild, right? So now we're looking at like chemical processes in the body and how the body is expending those chemical processes based on why you're crying, whether it's grief, sadness, laughter, anger, right? It's all different. You could totally do a little Google search on that. It's interesting. But, our bodies are pretty miraculous. It's like, it's just the ability, the resilience to bounce back and make it through things. And I think that, I want to give people hope. People can go through really bad things and come out and be even better than they ever imagined was possible through the hard work and through facing it and building support, because that's key too.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And again, it's taking that first step on the right path. It's the hardest one, but it really is. Unfortunate, my department's about, between 700 and 800 people, depending on the year. And we have had
That's
a
a
major,
lot.
it's a real lot. Yeah. I mean, that's not even including all of our civilians and stuff like that. So, but the upswing in people reaching out, and a lot of that is word of mouth. So this person went and got help, call him because he might have somebody for you that would work. Or they just see people start feeling better or whatever it may be. I think we're really on the right path, and we were not there 5-6 years ago even.
Yep.
So it is contagious when you start to get people, especially hardened people that you never would expect to go
Do
get some
this.
help. Yeah. And, then they want to talk about how good they feel, and they're talking to their coworkers. So it is a get the ball rolling kind of thing.
Think of too, when you get some of your more veteran officers who've been doing this a long time, like yourself, jumping on the bandwagon and doing this. I think you're setting a precedence too for the younger officers coming into this field.
100%. And I can tell you that the kids coming into work today are a different generation than the kids.
Yep.
Raised different requirements, different schooling, different whatever it may be. If you can get some of these veterans, salty, whatever you want to call them, that just dealt with stuff through
All these
booze
years.
or
Yeah.
just didn't talk about stuff. That's my favorite part of that, is having these guys that, like you said, wouldn't normally ever talk about anything, but they've had a good experience with it. And they will tell me, I will talk to anybody you want. I've sent people to rehab. They come
That's
back. I will
huge.
talk to anybody you want if it helps them get that door open and they take that first step. It really is. It brings such a smile on my face to see these guys come back healthier, hopefully happier and on the right line, but being willing to do that part takes me right out of the mix. No problem. It allows you to actually speak to somebody that's been where you've been, but there is another option.
Yeah, I do want to touch base because I know this is a component of your field, the suicide rates of not addressing mental health.
Yeah.
I know this is a tough one.
No, it's a very real one. Yeah, it's a lot of these trainings. One of my good friends and president of the helpline, Tony, says that we're killing ourselves faster than the criminals can kill us. That's not good.
No.
Nobody should kill us, for one. But
Nobody should be killing anybody. Yes.
if you have the rates in front of you, if you look compared
I
to
do.
people being shot in the street, it's probably 3 times. I mean, annually.
It's I'm trying to find it here.
There's 215 or 30.
Suicide mortality risk indicators. Law enforcement officers are twice as likely to die by suicide as in line of duty deaths. Suicide rate reported. Now, this is just one incident. I kind of just did a general search. Suicide rate reported 60% higher than the general population in some regional analysis. So it's going to vary, obviously. New York City example, officer suicide rate is 13.8 per 100,000. That's over double the city population rate.
Yeah.
If we ignore these things, we're doing our first responders a huge disservice.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that come into play with this. So not only is it just the stuff you see on the job, you factor in home life, not getting anywhere near political stuff, but the pressures from
Society.
certain events and certain things. I mean, for a very long time, our field was looked at as the good guys and the helpers and the whatever you term them. And we went through a very big wave where that hasn't
Didn't
been the
happen.
case in a very long time. Again, I don't mean to say that broadly. We do have a great support system in a lot of areas. We do. But overall,
morale is down.
You can't just turn the news on and that pretty much tells you where things are. So yeah, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's just a lot of added stressors. It's a lot of expectations. There are just so many things against us in this field that it unfortunately is a contributing factor to that number.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like so I just want to put this out there. In any field, there's always going to be somebody who's not doing their job correctly, right? Every field, even my field, right? And I believe in what I do. I also think it's not fair to generalize a population that everybody is bad, right? Because I don't think all officers are bad. I don't think that at all. I think personally, you guys do a job that I don't want as a therapist. I know some people are like, oh, we'll bring in therapists. No offense, but I don't want your job. I know it's not for me. And I think it takes, I'm going to be vulgar here because I feel like it's necessary, a huge set of fucking balls to do your job. Because I don't think the average person understands what it entails.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is an extremely difficult profession, and it's gotten way harder. It used to be a pretty enjoyable job. You didn't have all these added pressures. The other thing that kind of comes with that, we are so hamstrung by laws, by regulations. This, again, I don't want to get too political here, but I mean, you used to be able to arrest somebody that's broken a law, let's
Okay.
just say a higher level law,
Okay.
felony, take them and place them in jail and remove them from whatever
The
area.
general population.
Right. With bail reform and all these things we have going on right now, it kind of, it puts this bad taste in your mouth. Like, what is the point of me going out and being proactive and taking these people off the street when they're never off the street?
Yeah.
Domestics, you just picked up somebody that did something terrible to his wife. In certain cases,
You're separating them, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Let's separate him. He can sit in jail for the night.
Right. Figure it out.
She's going to be alive at least tomorrow, right?
Yeah. It just kind of de-incentivizes you being a proactive police officer. And then, you're one bad call away from being sued. You're one bad call away from being on the news. And if you use a language you used to use before, or you don't just try to softly counsel people on the street all the time, you're getting written up departmentally. Who knows? Depends on your department. It's just, it's very difficult. It's not.
It's become a movie scene. Like, you guys have to always be operating on point. And I'm not saying people should go out and be derogatory with people or harassing people. That's not what I'm insinuating at all. It's just there's so much scrutiny on every choice you make. You're already in a high stress situation. Most people, I'm going to tell you right now, from a neuroscience perspective, high stress does not typically, for most people, our logic and our reason is not functioning. Our brain is ready for mobilization.
Right.
So now you're going to put a person into a high-risk situation, and more stress is placed on that person for a number of reasons, and we're expecting perfect responses.
Yeah. De-escalation, right?
Right. I know as a parent, I'm not perfect. I love my kids more than anything, but if I'm already stressed out to the max and somebody's losing their damn mind or fighting, mom might be raising her voice a little bit, right? Like, nobody's hurt, nobody's injured, but now that happens for your job, that can be interpreted in many of ways. And that's a perfectly normal response in a high stress situation, just given like the parenting example.
It's a perfect example. And I was going to say that just right before you got to that. So great minds think alike, obviously, but in a large majority of the calls that you go to,
you're de-escalating.
But a lot of it would be, I would be advising from like a parental standpoint. Stop doing that. Right. Stop doing this. Leave this person alone. Don't.
And 3-year-olds, we get, right? They're going to do what they do. But adult people, we are expecting more from them.
Sure. And adult people don't like to be told what to do sometimes.
Yes.
So it's like smacking your head against the wall. This is such a simple fix, but you're making this harder than it needs to be. And I'm going to be back here in an hour.
Right.
So it's, but you can't go there and say, knock the shit off.
Right. Yep.
You swore at me. I'm telling your boss. Like, they just take away the tools from us that could be simple fixes sometimes. It's just like I said, it's just another stressor.
I feel like it's, I'm going to say this. I feel like I just need to. I am not an officer, and I'm not going to go out and pretend to be. I'm just not. Do some things need to change? maybe in some instances, maybe. But I also, as a therapist, I ask a lot of questions. I want to know a whole story before I decide to make an opinion on something. And oftentimes I think people are not getting a whole story, or they assume they know the whole story and they don't.
Yeah, 100%. It's not just all black and white all the time.
It's never black and white. I don't think for the majority of this stuff is it black and white.
No.
You know, so I feel like changing how first responders receive mental health care, because let's face it, every single person on this planet is going to deal with mental health at some point in form or another, whether it's bouts of anxiety, bouts of depression. Obviously more intensely would be the PTSD and the more intense stuff that comes with that, which is coming probably from, again, repeated exposure on the job. Not to mention people who already bring this stuff with them into line of duty. Right?
Yeah.
This is also excluding a person's own individual trauma that they've experienced.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think that when I touched on going to my counselor for the first time, like, we didn't start with, well, what happened at work last week?
No, we start, ooh, what happened in your childhood?
Yeah, we're bringing up everything. And again, like I said, that's nobody that's walking into the job at 23, 24 years old didn't go through something in life generally.
Yep.
So you're coming with some baggage. You got a little bit in your backpack and you're going to start filling it up pretty quick. So it's
going to get heavy.
It's a great point that most people have their own personal stuff as well as the new job.
And my guess is a lot of this statistics are skewed. That's why there's such a range. One of them had like 178 lifetime prevalence for officers in the job. And I'm like, that's too fucking low. So I just jumped to the 900 and then I heard you say 1,000. So because of stigma, because we can't talk about it, if I talk about it, I'm going to have to go through this severe psychological evaluation, that my job's at risk. The other layer of this too, since we kind of touched base on it, I feel like I'm just ripping all the cans open here. You guys didn't vote for certain administrations. You didn't necessarily vote for laws, or maybe you did. I don't know. But I think that first responders are doing a job.
Yeah, and that doesn't change when we get a new boss as far as...
No, it doesn't.
Why we came there. It's just that people start implementing new things and they want stuff done their way. Yeah, we don't get to pick who's in charge of us. We're fortunate right now to have a great person in charge of us, and I'm super happy with our commissioner.
Okay, good.
Who knows when that changes, So it goes in kind of hips and valleys with where our morale is throughout the years, and it's all cumulative. I know it's a beat up word and it gets used a lot, but it really is. I mean, 20, 30-year careers, it's a lot to consider.
A lot comes with it. And I think too, like, I don't want to discredit somebody for being in for 30 years either, because I think there's a whole host of valuable information or valuable life experience, job experience that's going to come with an officer who has 30 years experience.
Yeah, it's invaluable.
You can't teach that in a classroom.
Nope. What comes with that is I've seen since I've been here 4 commissioners. I've only been here 8 years. So you're talking about change in 30 years. You're also seeing changing with the times. So he got hired in the 70s. It was a much different place to work. You're required to do all your stuff electronically. And you have guys that are, struggle with that sometimes.
Technology updates and
Yeah, but what also comes with it is confidence that they can walk into whatever thing that they're walking into and just know that they can control it. And when younger guys and girls see that, I think that's we have field training officers. So those are people that train you when you get hired.
Okay.
And generally, if they're have some veteran status to them, you learn how things can go right. That's the goal. This is how I de-escalate this or handle this without jamming yourself up. That's a term that gets used a lot. So veterans are 30 years is a very long
time. It's a long time.
But, with the way our lovely state is, and in order to collect a full service pension,
you have to have 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, you can do 20 with most police agencies, but if you leave at 20 and you're 45,
What are you going to do the rest of your life? Yeah.
Also, you're getting so penalized that you might as well stay another 10 if you're healthy because you're losing so much money to go at 20. So
Yeah.
they
And I
don't,
think about that with like these political changes and people like kind of blaming you guys for the politicians
sure.
at bay, whichever, and whatever. Like you invest yourself 15, 20 years in, this is your job. This is your livelihood. We can't expect people to leave just because they might not agree with whoever's in office or whatever. I mean, I've heard some wild things.
Yeah.
I think of you guys as individuals too, right? And I have to adapt to the laws surrounding my own field. I have to adapt to, um, just other things too. Like we can change and we can grow and we can better ourselves. And I don't think any field should be excluded from that.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a lot of people were going to leave because we were going to be losing health care. I don't know if you saw any of that on the news.
I did, yeah.
Could have lost, thought it was like 90 guys and
Wow.
girls. I mean, out of
That's a lot.
that's huge. It's very difficult to replace, especially when we can't get anybody that wants to take the test most of the time, or if you do, it's not always the
It's
best
not great.
candidate sometimes.
Right. Right.
Or it's tough. It's when I took the test back in like, I don't know, 08 or 09, there was thousands of people and there was like
Very
4
competitive.
separate lists and you had to take it at the convention center and this is across the board. Nobody's taking the jobs anywhere.
And then what's going to happen? Like what's going to happen when somebody's calling 911 and we don't have an officer to send to you?
Yeah, we run at minimum staffing around here a lot of times. I mean, if people get hurt and it just lowers the number and it's tough.
I think it's just mounting pressure on already a stressful job. I feel like too, like you never want to not show up, right? Because then it's being placed on somebody else's load. So there's that as well.
Yeah. I mean, you
We
work,
don't shut down at midnight because it's nighttime.
you work with what you got. But then the numbers come out and overtime is high, but it's because we are sending the same people to the same stuff for extra shifts, or they're picking up because sometimes we don't have the staffing. So it's always this double-edged sword, but
Yeah. Tell me a little bit, because I also want to highlight some positive things, because I think there are people that do love this field and want to go into this field. So what are some things that what would be some advice, takeaway maybe that you would have for somebody wanting to enter this field?
Well, the great thing about this field is, at least in most departments, you can bounce around, you can get specialty units, you can find something that is like your niche. You don't have to stay in the same platoon for 20 years. You can kind of make it your own. Take the good stuff in when it's really good and enjoy that.
Yeah.
Use your time off.
Yep.
Within reason, take your vacations. And when you go and do that stuff, forget about work. And a lot of times, and it's, not easy thing to do when we usually don't do it. But a lot of times I'll tell people, when you have your off time and your days off, spend it with your old friends, your family. Spend
Kind of separate a little bit.
With the people that you came up with and made you the person you were before you came here. As a reminder to kind of come back to yourself a little bit, to decompress from, talking about work all the time or thinking about an incident that happened this week. Let's just enjoy our family and friends. I think that's super important. I know I really look forward to seeing
your family and your friends, and yeah.
Huge. So stuff like that. But when you do good, you feel good. There's definitely some certain big high points in this career.
What are some high points? What are some good things? What are things that come to mind?
The great calls where you're able to help somebody, lifting a kid out of a rolled over car and the kid's going to be fine. And maybe you did CPR on somebody that, wouldn't have made it if you weren't there in time. And you get that sense of
doing the right thing.
Yeah, doing the right thing. And just, it's not like you're looking for awards. You're just, I did good today. I feel good about what I did. I can go home and hang my hat and just know, I helped somebody good today. You're going to have enough bad days that you don't have to worry about thinking about those, because they're
practice the gratitude of, okay, what went right today? What did I do today that I'm proud of, even though it was hard?
Yeah, enjoy it. I pass somebody on the sidewalk and I say, "Hey, officer, how you doing?" Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm actually great. How are
Yeah.
you? Whatever.
Yeah.
It's try to pull the good from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as a therapist, yes, people come to me and they're telling me all their stuff and we're working through trauma, but practicing gratitude and at nighttime, this is like a trick that I love. Like practice at nighttime. What went right today? Instead of everything that went wrong or everything I didn't get done at night before you go to bed, don't pile that on your plate because then your brain starts going
Sure.
and your heart rate goes up and then there's no sleeping. So practice what went right and reflect upon that and kind of stew in that. And that's grounding. And there are always good things in every day. It's just sometimes really hard to see them. When we ruminate too much about things or relive something too much, we're really strengthening the neuron pathways. And it's like building like a steel bridge that's like going nowhere. So sometimes we need to take a detour and we need to create other ways of doing things.
Yeah, that negative stuff is always going to be much easier to focus on and always kind of in your face.
It's a
It is.
negativity bias. It's a thing.
It's hard to shake. That's why, like I said, if you could separate yourself as much from work when you're not at work, it really does seem to benefit. I'm not saying that it's going out and drinking 5 nights a week and
Nope.
whatever.
No, the anxiety, the depression, the anxiety that comes with that, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not good.
It's not. I've been there.
Yep. Same. Yeah, I barely drink anymore because I physically can't. I don't like how I feel. Something else that ties into this is hobbies. You can be passionate about your job and what you're doing and helping people, but you have to have hobbies and things you enjoy outside of this. And I don't. When people come to me, it's like, what are your hobbies? Oh, I watch Netflix. No, that's not a hobby. It's art or it's something physical. Go to the gym. It's running that 5K. It's being active in your kids' sports or athletics or whatever extracurricular things that they have. Or I don't know, this isn't be a hobby, but a date night with your spouse, spend time with them and be present.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a lot of things we kind of try to practice and preach is always going to be the physical stuff because it gets rid of that,
It's a way to let it
you
out. Yeah.
word it better than I can, but it's getting rid of that release. So that's why it's science. When you actually release those endorphins and you're moving,
Mhm.
you're going for a brisk walk at night, whatever, something
I
that
love a walk.
it's a great
I
thing.
put my weighted vest on. I'm that lady in my neighborhood, but my heart rate's like 160 and I'm just walking. It's
There you go.
fabulous.
It's perfect. Nutrition, we a lot of times preach about packing your meals because when you're stuck here on these shifts,
You're eating like crap.
fast food or whatever's, we started introducing yoga here. So I'll have
I love it. Yes.
Katie Ratchuk is a yoga instructor. She'll come here on Fridays and
Perfect.
we'll do it upstairs. I'm trying to get more of a buy-in for that. It's free to our department and just little stuff. I mean, little changes, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You guys have a gym there too, I think.
we do have a nice gym up in headquarters.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a padded room that I've been having Katie come and offer up yoga sessions here and there, but just trying to make good partnership with people that can help us out too.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. I think I also want to emphasize this is a community effort. So you have this list of therapists. Who else is on that list? It's not just mental health.
For the therapists,
No, like on the helpline, is there a list of like other community providers? Like, are there other resources too?
yeah, I mean, we do support groups.
Support groups. Perfect. Okay. Yep.
Those are every second and fourth Tuesday of every month.
Okay.
At nighttime, we do. Oh, what's the term? I'm trying to think. I don't want to botch it. I can't remember it now. But we
It's
do another
okay.
group setting monthly for
Okay.
people. I've sent them a few times. It's like a focus group kind of situation. It's
Okay.
wonderful. It's not a debrief, but it's something where you can come there. We work into kind of what's going on with each other and allow people to have kind of a platform to get some things moving off their, you know.
Like a debrief kind of almost
Yeah, it's kind of, it's not as intricate and it's not as,
intense. Okay.
right down, but it's a little bit more open. We also kind of partner up with NILEAP, which is a New York Law Enforcement Assistance Program.
Okay.
We just had a post-critical incident seminar
Okay.
last week. It's a 3-day seminar. Those are very intense.
Okay.
They're really tailored towards people that have been through some major trauma and are having a difficult time kind of coping with that.
Mm-hmm.
They come twice a year. We're doing all kinds of stuff, just trying to, make some avenues for everybody. Not everybody wants to talk to myself. Not everybody
Yeah.
wants to talk to, another law enforcement officer.
Okay.
So it's whatever works for you. We have an EAP. There's a million things going on.
There's options. I think that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing is if people
Yeah.
don't have one choice, they have options. I know we're tying up here, but I just wanted to touch base. You said you're expanding outside of Buffalo. I know at one point I had connected somebody with you who was in fire.
Mhm.
And, it was like, I got a perfect person for you to talk to. I don't know if they ever reached out. I never followed up, but where are you expanding to? What's this looking like?
So I think we're expanding outside of Western New York. Real
Okay.
sounds of it. It sounds like possibly Monroe County.
Nice.
You don't want to, I guess, maybe overshoot what you can
Control.
assist with,
Right.
but
Yep.
we're working with Erie County on a few things here and there that are trying to make the program bigger, more accessible, more resourceful, stuff like that. Uh, Obviously open to anybody in the immediate area and then family and friends. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak too much for the board that kind of runs it, but the goal is to be as big as possible with being manageable so that
Hmm.
we're not ever in a position where we can't provide a service.
Yep.
So I mean, I know we've done stuff for when that big bus accident was last year,
Hmm.
become available for surrounding counties,
Hmm.
constantly offering up help for whatever. If there's something in Rochester, we've gone out there and helped with Rochester.
I feel like you guys, I don't know about other areas because I haven't looked it up. Maybe you'll know more information on this, but are you guys setting a precedent of what other areas, I don't even know, outside of this state are like setting up for their officers or their first responders in their community?
I think so for sure. And one of the questions that I did get was I did a little interview with the news when that bus accident happened. And they're
Okay.
like, well, what are all these other agencies? There was like 5 or 6 agencies that responded.
Responded. Yeah.
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 But there wasn't at that point, it was kind of like, well, each agency is doing their own thing. Like they should be checking on each other. And making the helpline available to that kind of situation where there's not a lot of agencies that have a lot of resources for mental health.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is newer for officers to have mental health support and be a part of. You guys have a whole mental health response team, I know, as well. Yeah.
Right. For our department, we have a peer team it's about 19 of us right now that are available when critical incidents happen. The helpline, I don't want to quote the number. I thought last time I checked, it was around 170 for peers between,
Okay.
um, law enforcement and family peers.
Which isn't a ton when you think of, you said 800 roughly.
Uh, that's just for Buffalo.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But I mean,
It's a decent amount, but I'm just saying, obviously, if that expanded, those numbers of peer supports would have to go up.
sure. Yeah, for sure. And we're always bringing new people on and trying to
Okay.
get people involved. But it's also the helpline itself is a 24-hour answering system where you're getting linked up with somebody. You're not probably going to have 800 of my Buffalo people call this week. So
Right.
it's not more of a reactive initial kind of
Okay.
setup where you're just available. We have people on call every day of the month.
Okay.
So that person answers. And if there's more, there's overflow, and pass that on to the next person too. So right now it's very sufficient, but yes, I'd like to expand.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you can teach other precincts or other counties or other first responders how you guys do this and how you manage this successfully, and there can be a ripple effect. To me, this is how we create positive change and how we support our first responders while addressing their mental health needs with clear statistical evidence that it's needed. And my hope is that this creates a really positive impact and there's a ripple effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we're in constant communication with many agencies, and any help that can be provided to get them up and running, we're always there for that too. We're also very much open to advice on things that work in other areas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a partnership with whoever wants to be a partner.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure that there is the link for the Western New York Helpline, the number. I know there's a website. And then are you guys on social media too?
Yes,
I'll make sure
Facebook.
I link that as well. So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. And I feel like I wanted to highlight this and support the efforts that you're doing with this, because I think you're making a difference in people's lives and in the lives of their families. And again, this is going to have a ripple effect on our community, and a positive one, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. It's awesome to bring some awareness to kind of what's going on and what we're trying to do. And we need you and we need your field. And
Yep.
we're grateful for you. So thank you.
We're here for it. Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation. A sincere thank you to Matt Cross and the Buffalo Police Department for sharing insight, perspective, and resources that help bring awareness to mental health within law enforcement in our community. If today's discussion resonated and brought up anything for you or someone you love, please remember support is available. You can contact the Law Enforcement Helpline at 716-858-2677. It provides 24/7 coverage to Western New York and is for law enforcement, peers, family, and first responders. You can learn more about this episode, resources, and future conversations at Mindi Lobuzzetta at the Unapologetic MidLife Podcast. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep living unapologetically.